All I know is that first, you've got to get mad. You've got to say, I'm a human being. God damn it. My life has value. So, I want you to get up now. I want all of you to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
Hi guys, Gillian Leivers here, just checking in with you. You all know me, the man fighting the grave miscarriage of justice.
Don't flinch. We're pulling the curtain back on the injustice on the Greenfeeds case, where verdicts were handed down, but justice was not served. So buckle up. This isn't just a broadcast, it's a reckoning. This is a case of a grievous injustice, and we want to understand how things went so wrong. Listen in every Saturday between 12 and 2 p.m. and hear how the story unfolds. You'll be blown away by its content. Only on Dreamcatcher Radio.
You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth!
Okay, so welcome. This is episode 32 of the Greenfeeds case. We've got Brad and Ian and myself. And we're going to rejoin what we were doing last time with regards to Nigel Curtis, who was a driver. And we'd got him sat on top of the tank, looking down inside the tank and looking at Gavin. So the barrister said, can you see Gavin inside? What could you see of him? And the guy says his high vis, his wellies, his safety cap floating on top. I stood there and thought, should I jump in? But I knew if I did, I wouldn't be getting back out. So I think we ought to take it from there, Brad.
And that is that page 68?
Yeah, that's right at the very top.
Oh, okay. I see. I was looking at the bottom.
Yeah, right at the very top.
Okay. Could you see how much liquid?
I'd say a third full.
Oh,
And that's interesting in its own right.
Yes, Ian here speaking. Do you remember? If it's a third full, as we know, that would have been probably below your knee height, wouldn't it? A third. I think we've established this before, Phil, haven't we? So he mentions that he doesn't see Nathan. But of course he doesn't see Nathan because he's in the rear compartment. Now, if Nathan was under that middle hatch that Draycott claims, when he claims that he fell from his gloves, I'm not sure if he meant Nathan's gloves in some statements and his own gloves in the others. There's no way on earth that Nathan wouldn't be visible under that middle hatch if Gavin was on top of him. There's no way that we could obscure him and that he wouldn't have seen Nathan. But he never mentions Nathan, does he, at all? He's describing Gavin and seeing Gavin only. And also, as we discussed on episode 31, he claims that he climbed the ladder and there was nobody there, that Draycott ran to the office and he was alone.
Yeah.
yeah.
I think the thing that you tend to forget, or I tend to forget, is there's a fair distance actually. If you drop vertically from the middle hatch, there's a fair distance to the rear baffle.
Yes, I think I've measured it. You know, I'm sure to that hole, to go through the hole, I think it's around about 12 feet or thereabouts.
Yeah, notwithstanding that, even to get through the baffle is not easy.
Well,
no, it's most definitely not. You'll have seen I put on my social media yesterday when I was in the tanker peering through that baffle, 18-inch, and the fold of the baffle goes one way. And so you can always determine which compartment you're in. And I've put that photograph on because Steve Hunt claims that photograph was taken the year before. But with the fold around the hole...
Did we ever get to the bottom of that, Ian, just out of interest?
Well,
that photo.
I'm going to leave it for the viewer to go onto my Facebook page. I'll share it on TikTok also across both social media.
That's Andy
And
Hargreaves, isn't it? Hargreaves photo.
yes,
So
and as in,
we've never come to. So basically, is it in abeyance? Because Andy's saying it's definitely not.
well,
Um,
I'm saying that it looks identical to my tanker, and there's only what the crease, the fold, if you like, because there's the 18-inch hole, and then the metal has
that
been
flange,
professionally.
flange,
Yeah, it's flanged, yeah. So it's sharp edged on one side, and you can see it folded on the other. So the compartment that I'm in mirrors exactly the one Andy's in. So I'd like people to look at that photograph, and they will understand where that
Mm.
photograph was taken from.
On that point, Phil, what's your opinion?
I was
On
just
that photo?
staring at the ceiling, trying to think it out. Actually, so Ian, is that flange? Is that bent towards the rear of the trailer? Or
It's
is it
bending towards me when I'm in the tanker. The sharp edge, if you like, is towards me, and from where the camera's taking it from, that's the smooth round edge.
Me
Yeah,
personally,
because Nathan
me
had
personally,
scrots to his legs, didn't he?
let me just, me personally, it's not the same tanker.
Well, Tim Walker claimed, well, he didn't claim, he confirmed that he went in Gordon and cut the bottom arch, if you like, for the liquid to come through bigger. And that size, miraculously, is exactly the same size as the one Andy's in. Now, I had no other tankers with that size on the bottom, and I've had this confirmed. I only had 4 tankers. Green Goddess had big arches on the bottom, and then we had Henry, which was in use,
It's a name of
and
the dog.
2 others. But yeah, we named them all. And if you remember, on episode 31, the judge confirmed that all tankers were named also.
Yeah, he
So
did. Yeah.
in both your Ian and Phil, that photo, do you think it's legit or not?
No, I don't think it's legit at all.
Okay, what are you thinking?
Well, we have the detective's report, don't we? Which we cannot share their findings.
Ignore that. What do you think? What
I believe that Lee Marshall, because he's been on my social media, I've got the messages claiming this, Brad. I want your opinion on this one. He claims that he cannot remember which tanker it was when he took that photograph, and I've got his messages to me over this past few months. So, what do you think? That man claims, Lee Marshall, who claims he took that photograph the year before, now claims he doesn't know which tanker it was. What do you think to that?
Okay, you're avoiding my question anyway. But before I get to that, the Steve Hunt said he has additional information to completely validate that photo's legitimate, but he's never provided it.
Well,
But going back to my question, what do you think based on everything you know? Is it legit or not?
I want to say this, and I want to.
In fairness, before you answer that question, it doesn't really show a lot anyway because there's an empty tanker. And it just seems to be showboating or whatever it may be.
There's no pressure washer hose going through, is there? So if Lee Marshall's taking that, go on.
Do you think it's legit or not?
I know exactly what it is, Brad. But what I'm saying is, Lee Marshall, and I've got the messages, who supposedly took that photograph, claims he doesn't know what tanker it was.
Right. So what does that mean?
Well, what does that mean?
Yeah.
How can he claim that he doesn't know what tanker it was that Andy's in? And then he went quiet on me. When, you see, you can tell which compartments they are by the curvature of the baffle. And as I say, the fold, which way it goes. You can tell, and also the slope of the liquid on the base is sloping towards the person who's took that photograph. and it slopes. And if my tank is sloped towards the back, so you'd expect it to widen towards the outlet, wouldn't you? That's another telltale sign.
Mm. It does
I
actually
would,
look, yeah. But the
I would
point
say,
being,
what are you actually telling me? What are you actually telling me with this photograph?
no, exactly, Phil. That's exactly the point I was just about to make. Is
You know,
that
I could,
it
you know,
means nothing,
nothing.
right?
Well, the person who took the one with me, and it was actually a video which I've took a still of, videoed it, putting his arm in the rear compartment.
Mm. Okay. One thing on this point as well, because we this happens in these series, which I think is most important, really, in all fairness, is that you know, we are here to discuss what we can best establish to the best of our information about information we've gathered, which is available that we could possibly sit across the table. And this is the whole point of these sort of discussions, because they're very important, because these discussions were never had.
Okay, well, let me confirm something. What a
In court.
tremendous job you've done, Brad, when you reached out to me and found me, and you've kindly, we're now on episode 32. Let me tell you this. Lee Marshall will go to jail for perverting the course of justice. That is a fact.
Right. Okay, I didn't know that. The
trouble with this case is, and we probably might even discuss it later on when we get to our AI information, is that they tended to use any or all information wherever it came from, or whatever validity there was to it. They used any bit of information they could to nail Gillian Leivers. And this is just a case in point. You know, a photograph of two guys, you know, inside a tanker, behind the hole, you know, with a light on their heads.
Well, this is yeah. Sorry, Phil, to overtalk you. This is a very valid point. It sounds so minor, but it's so significant.
Well, let me tell you guys, we have got Lee Marshall. He did come to court, so we'll get more when we get to him. But again, we're doing it in order, aren't we? So we're on second witness now, Nigel Curtis. So we will get to Lee Marshall, and we will discover
Sorry, Phil,
more evidence.
I apologize.
Well, they've said they've used that photograph in the court case to add validity to people going inside tankers. Is all I can gain from it. People going inside tankers, and here to prove it, here's two Muppets behind an 18-inch hole.
Yes, Phil. The only one photograph, and as I always said throughout this, the famous photograph, which I was so pleased when Steve brought it to the surface. I was ecstatic. If you can remember, this was, I think, earlier on this year, I was skipping and jumping because we've gleaned more evidence since he brought that to light than anything else. Well, very significant, should I say. Very significant. And those messages from Lee Marshall has damned him.
There's very little physical evidence in this case, to be truthful. That again worries me, because you're relying upon your witnesses. And as far as I can see, none of the witnesses in this case have got any reliability whatsoever. And it should have been the defence's case to rubbish these people. You know, the Sam Rammages of this world, you know, who couldn't even decipher whether you actually ran tankers or not, and she's in charge of health and safety. I mean, it just beggars belief, that. And I wish I had a fiver for every time we said that beggars belief, because I'd be a very rich man.
Phil, I'm sorry to overtalk you, but
it's all right.
You've latched onto it straight away. It should have been an easy task, shouldn't it?
Yeah.
To do that job. I mean, from any defense counsel. And then this is why we're in this situation. And the thing is, I'm not running this series for fun. I know you do, Phil, and I know you do, Ian, but well, you know, we're third parties, is that Gillian Leivers shouldn't be in jail. Now, I'm not saying anybody should be in jail. I'm not. That's got, you know, Ian has his own opinion. But the I'm saying she shouldn't be in jail, and it's just so egregious. It's beyond belief because the evidence is there to basically the business was set up, the structure was there. You may have
Yeah.
weaknesses in the business, right? That happens day to day life, doesn't it? Right?
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
incident was just something that you know is just completely out of character for the business.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Oh, to add to that, Brad, and I'm sure Phil follows them too. I've just started following the Health and Safety Executive's Facebook page, and one of their cases popped up where they used CCTV footage
Mm.
to win the
Yeah.
case, but they
Yeah.
couldn't
Yeah.
use it in mine, could they? Nobody could use the CCTV footage.
It makes
Not the
no sense.
prosecution, not the police initially, nor the HSE, not even our defence.
Yeah,
They wouldn't have used it if Gillian hadn't have noticed that it was Dave Maruniak at the scene, somewhat 10 days before the trial. The defence would not have used it.
even to the point to have a person that was never identified
Yeah,
right before trial. That is
yeah.
unheard of.
Unheard of. Wouldn't you think, Brad, where you've asked so many times for people to come on the show? Wouldn't you think Steve Hunt, if he's got nothing to hide, who was down there at the scene, who saw this firsthand, wouldn't you thought he'd reached out and given his opinion or his take on what really happened? But no, silence. Wouldn't you think Martin White, another person who carried the ladder away, what do you think if he's got nothing to hide? That he wouldn't come on and say, well, listen, this is what happened, but nothing. Silence.
Well,
Why?
I think Steve Hunt come on the show, didn't he?
Yeah, Steve Hunt wasn't there. No, I'm talking about Steve Lane. Did I say
Oh,
Steve
right.
Hunt?
Okay. You said Hunt, yeah.
Sorry, I beg your pardon. Steve Lane is there, is on the scene, is at the scene.
But
He's got nothing
just
to.
on that point though as well, just so I keep training my thought. Steve Hunt come on purely to defend the Romaniacs and his fellow employees. He didn't.
Well, he's
No,
going to be held accountable, isn't he? Because he's lied, claiming the police have told him to be silent. The police will eventually confirm that that's untrue, a complete pack of lies.
Okay, before we get to that, because I can comment on that because obviously I spoke to him, the
Yeah.
post the interview, and but Steve Hunt basically said the reason why he come on with Richard Draycott, and I'm guessing they probably didn't like the aftermath of the interview and that sort of stuff. But I did actually speak to Steve Hunt probably about a couple of weeks later, and he did say that he's not allowed to post any more videos. I don't know what he was on about. Maybe he did post videos or whatever regarding the Greenfeeds case. But he went on there because in the interview, I don't know what episode it was. It was before 25, I think it was. The so maybe 24. He was saying that he was arbitrator for your employees. Now, the other thing that whilst we've on this subject is that some of the comments we get, which is not that much actually, to be honest, Ian, because I think people don't send so much comments, is that do we not have any respect for the employees of the business? That's got absolutely nothing to do with this, right? 2 people have lost their lives, right? And you've got someone in jail who ought not to be in jail. That's it. That's the story. Now, and the crux of it is just literally that: is 2 people have lost their lives. They're dead.
Hey, something else we talk about the employees there, Brad. So if Lee Marshall had taken that famous photograph, yeah, okay, in 2015, wouldn't you think that he would have been banging the police station door down saying these 2 people or these 3 people, because it was my son Lance who was my fellow director, They're evil people. They've been making people go in tanks. You would have thought that, wouldn't you?
Well, I would say no, because that looks like a photo that you'd take on a beach.
Okay. Well, anyway, it's claimed to be 2015. And so when the two people died, Gavin and Nathan, it wasn't working for me. Okay?
Yeah.
It came back to work for me after the deaths.
Oh, that goes back to, I'm not too sure if we're going to have much chance to get onto it. We've never spoke about them in any great extent. Is the Romuniacs, where we'll talk about them. I'm hoping in this next episode. I don't know what we're going to talk about, but the fact is that photo in itself is just a bit of showboating. That's all it is.
But it was used in court.
Yes,
Correct.
I know that, Ian. But that photo shows absolutely nothing. There's no.
Well, it's not what the prosecution claimed.
No, I get all that. Yeah. Right, I get all that, but that photo shows nothing. There's no.
No, it doesn't.
There's no jet wash. It just shows someone posing in a tanker. Like, for example, here's an example, right? I drove a Ford Ranger, a friend of mine's, a couple of weeks ago, and I've never driven one before, and I was absolutely amazed how amazing that vehicle is, right? And it was gorgeous to drive and all this sort of things, massive, but that's what that photo is. It's just someone having a bit of fun where they put on Facebook and all that sort of stuff. It's nothing else.
Wouldn't you have thought, Brad, that the defence should have tore that to pieces then?
Of course.
Absolutely. I could recreate that photograph in my garage without a doubt. Piece of cardboard and a Stanley knife. Without a doubt. It doesn't mean anything. It's just there to support the narrative.
Yeah.
You know, the narrative that people went in tankers and that Gillian probably knew about it. Absolutely.
Phil, that's what was claimed, and it was not defended in any shape.
But that's the thing. The point being, it shows nothing other than a holiday photo of someone being in a tanker.
Yeah.
That's it. They're enjoying the workplace. They're in a tanker. Take a fucking excuse me. No, I'm not going to say excuse me. Fuck it. It's my radio station. And I've had complaints as well, but you can go fuck yourself.
It's my party, and I'll swear if I want to.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, quite. That's a song as well, isn't it?
Yes.
But the point being, it's a holiday photo. As far as I can see, there's nothing to see in that photo, other than, they're having a fucking laugh.
Hey, Brad, that's all they had physical to claim that people went into tankers. Everything else was hearsay.
Yeah,
exactly.
No job sheets, no day job sheets, ever, nothing.
But it goes further from that, Ian. Right, it goes further from that, right? They can do those photos, yeah, like these holiday photos, right? Where's all the rest of them showing them in pig feed in the tankers? There's none.
There isn't none.
Zero.
There isn't any. Yeah.
Hey, let me tell you this one when we come to it. I'll preempt it now. Mike Maruniak said he had them in his phone. He was asked where they are in court. He says he deleted them.
Yeah, well, you would, wouldn't you, idiot?
He's a liar. He's a liar.
I mean, have you ever, either of you, seen anything to do with a jet wash?
Never.
There's nothing to suggest that there was ever a jet wash there. Those two guys in that photograph didn't have a jet wash with them. There was no jet wash hose lying around. The picture where there's the picture of the tankers, whenever there's a picture of a tanker, that you never find a jet wash hose lying around.
Here's one for you, Phil. When Lance had the lorry taken out of the mixing shed to try and get some more light in, he never mentioned, let's chuck the jet wash out. It's going to be in there. It's going to pull it off the wall. That jet wash hose, Lance, was never mentioned by anyone else.
Exactly that.
Apart from Richard Draycott, who made up the story.
I've always said in the past when Nathan went in.
So sorry, just a quick question, right? So where that blue thing was,
strap,
that jet wash cable was not there.
No,
that's on the near side. It was on the off side, apparently. So would have seen it. As the lorry went out the mixing shed, it would have been talked about. Take the jet washer out. When Lance got in, take the jet washer out. It was never discussed by anyone apart from Richard Draycott, who made up the story. He had to have a story how those men became into that tanker and died in that tanker. A story.
It's just rubbish, wasn't it?
Okay.
Because I mean, theoretically, you could have used the hose to climb out. If you were
Sure.
in there
As
jet
we
washing
discussed
it.
last time.
Well,
Yeah.
saying that, you
Yeah.
could reach the top of the hatch anyway.
Of course you could.
Yeah, you stick your head out, couldn't
He
you?
made it sound, I've always said, as if it was cliffhanger. He didn't fall from his hands because you'd stand up and your arms are out. Your head's up at that hole.
Tim Walker would have had you dangling off the ladder. just by inhaling the fumes on the way up.
Yeah. There was no fumes. Nobody else ever mentioned fumes, blowing your head off, knocking your head off. No. It was invented.
But then of course, I mean, what about the text messages? All those text messages, you and I spoke about this, Brad. Never used, were they?
Never used, Phil. And you haven't got the extent of them. I sent them over to the BBC. I discussed this with Gillian this weekend. I'm going to get those and email them over to you both. You know, you've got the Marooniacs saying, let's do this, that, and the other, and then let's stand back and watch the fireworks.
Yeah. And people thinking, I wonder what their motive would be. Blimey, talk about spell it out for us. You know, the motive's there in black and white, absolutely. And even the hint of a false insurance claim is in there, isn't it?
Yes.
Get what you can, get what you can off and why you can.
Which Mike Marooniak put in and it was paid out.
Yeah, because Gillian wasn't happy about that, was she?
No, not at all.
Gillian was not happy about that. I mean, there's lots of stuff that we've got basically that just rubbishes this case. You know, I mean, I've got her diary here, or the copies of her diary for 2016, where over 150 days she isn't actually there.
No, that's right, Phil.
Well, she can't be a serious managerial player if she's not actually there for half the year. What are they going to do for those 6 months she wasn't there?
Yeah, and as I said before, Phil, a barrister, Jim Agros, covered this one by saying this when Gillian was most distraught on the stand. So, Mrs. Leivers, how many days did you have off in 2016? He never went through those 150 days, but it was never discussed by any of her solicitors in no meetings. And she was upset at that time, and she said, "Oh, I don't know a lot," because it was never totaled up and given to Gillian or discussed with her and her barrister.
He didn't have to go through them day by day. He could have just, waved the wad in the air and said, "Here they are." And
no. What he should have done, in my opinion, it should have said, "Would 150 days sound about right?"
You're right, Brad. Yeah, and given that to the jury.
Yeah.
Never was. So the jury never knew that Gillian had 150 work days off in 2016, and I think it was even more in 2015. Ever since when she finally gave up her salon to her niece, that's when.
The other thing, going back to Ian on High Energy. This is my 4th interview of today, by the way. But your show intrigues me the most because I'm so aggrieved by the fact that Gillian's in jail. But the other thing as well, that aside, you've got Richard Draycott saying he doesn't understand how to use the weighbridge, yeah, and that was allowed to get away with. And again, it sounds so bloody minor, but what do you do when let's just you can't no he's just lying, basically. He's just lying.
Out and out liar.
He's lying because you can't even you could say, well, maybe he has to wait for somebody to help him out. And what's his name, the transport manager, what's his name again? Stuart Brown. Right, let's just say he's on the toilet or he's not even there that day. Who does what then? There's no excuse or explanation for that.
It's rubbish, Brad. As we say, drivers work long hours.
Fucking posh.
Yeah,
it's the stuff that was never pursued, isn't it? This is a case of non-pursuit.
Exactly, Phil. It's so enraging.
It's like, so tell me, Mike, Dave Marooniak, You know, you were offloading a lorry that doesn't exist. And it's just allowed to filter out, isn't it? You know, he's offloading a lorry that wasn't there. It's proved it wasn't there.
Okay.
The CCT.
On that point, then, we've gone complete. We're on one tonight. I can tell we're on one tonight, right? So we've got 5 more minutes, Phil. Carry on talking about that and explaining that to the listeners. And listeners, please, I beg you to try and listen to previous shows. There's a woman here in jail that ought not to be in jail, and this, what Phil's just about to explain to you guys, listeners here, about how a truck just mysteriously disappears for an hour and 15 minutes, then somehow a few minutes later 2 people die. Go on, Phil.
Yeah, well, when
3 minutes.
When Draycott arrived back at site, he drove off the weighbridge, and then he said he took it round the block. That doesn't mean like he took it off site round the block. It means he took it on site into the gubbins of the site, basically, and then theoretically back and reverse it into the shed. But that took him 1 hour, 14 minutes. What was he doing? Where was he? And did they pursue him to find out where he was? No, they didn't. It was just allowed to sort of like happen. Nobody actually pinned him down and said, "What the hell were you doing for an hour and 14 minutes?" I have my own personal opinions. I think he went to the back of the site and put another 3 or 4 ton on, you know, for whatever reason, whether it was to raise the level to get the whatever was floating in there off or out or moved. But and that would have coincided with what Lance was saying with regards to the amount of tonnage in there that he thought was on there when he got in. He thought there was more like 7 ton in there, which would have been, you know, would have been more like it. But it was just allowed to be fizzled off. Nobody pursued it. You know, he's allowed to say he's offloading a vehicle that didn't exist. Craziness, absolute craziness, and that's not the only instance in this case where they just allowed things to go by. Sam Ramage, you know, in charge of health and safety, didn't know that they ran tankers. I mean, that is absolute craziness. I've never heard anything so crazy in my life. But was it pinned down? Was it dragged out of her that, you know, she was lying? No, it wasn't. Just allowed to fizzle out, basically. And this case is full of stuff like that. Basically, you've got a woman that's in prison as a result of it. You know, you've got a transport guy there, a professional transport driver, and he's encouraged a young kid to get into his tank. I say encouraged him because he passed him the sodding Lance. Have a jet Lance and get in my tanker.
Claimed,
Phil.
Phil.
There was 6 ton in there.
Claimed, Phil.
Ian, let him carry on. I'm enjoying this. It's true. It's true.
Well, no, there was 6 ton in there. I mean, and he, a professional driver of 8 years or whatever, saying he didn't understand that there might have been fumes in there from feed. What a load of old codswallop! He knew there was 6 ton in there. He probably knew there was fumes in there. Even if there wasn't fumes in there, getting into a tanker with 6 ton of feed in it when it's pitch black and it's freezing cold. I mean, what did he think the guy was going to do? Especially with a jet wash Lance. Utter craziness. In fact, as Ian will say, he's probably made it all up anyway. You know, it probably didn't happen. But it was allowed to just be glossed over. And if he's allowed if encouraged the kid to get into his tank, then he is culpable. In my book, he is culpable. And Stuart Brown is culpable because the pair of them both said that Gillian Leivers did not give either of those operatives the instruction on the day.
Okay.
And that's another thing why they nailed her. She's supposed to have given the instruction. Absolute rubbish.
Yeah, we need to go to a break, but this is a very important point as well, is that I'm not saying these guys, I do believe, I agree with you, Phil, they're culpable of something. To what, I don't know. All right. But one thing I do know is Gillian Leivers shouldn't be in jail, and she's not culpable of this crime. We need to also talk about the fact that the 2005 incident was mentioned in
2005, yeah. Yeah, we'll come to that after the break, eh?
Yeah, we'll come to that. Thanks for telling me, Phil. You're getting good at this. Let's go to our first song. Who's introducing it?
Yeah. Can I pick this one again today? Okay.
Oh, go on then.
Oh, thanks, Phil. I know you're the music guru. It's another new U2 song, believe it or not, and it's called "The Tears of Things," and it's about the struggle against authoritarianism with a David and Goliath metaphor, which is what we're up against.
Really?
Yeah.
Jeez, that's an interesting song. Okay, let's play this. I've not heard it.
There's no start to this story, and I can see no end. Two young men hearing voices whisper in the wind. I woke up made of marble, a shepherd boy in shock. Michelangelo released me from a single block. I'm David the giant killer with heart-shaped eyes. I was naked as a soldier, far from my mother's cries. Oh, the tears of things, the tears of things, rising like a flood. The tears of things, the tears of things, I'd cry them if I could. Was it you, Lord, I was listening to? You didn't say much. Said, let my fingers form you, be fashioned by my touch. Be open to be broken, as every heart that sings. No voice and drum can overcome a symphony of strings. Said you'd make of me an instrument for melody and word. I wonder as I fall asunder, was it really you I heard? Or the tears of things, the tears of things, songs made out of rain. The tears of things, the tears of things. Here we go again. Mussolini came to see me, a shadow by his side. Church bells ring, vanishing, and the vanishing denied. 6 million voices silenced in just 4 years. The silent song of Christendom, so loud everybody hears. Before the roar, before the blast, stench and shame, there's a howling, wailing sound that screams your name. I'm David, not Goliath. I was born in Bethlehem. Now there is no us if there is no them. My eyes were burned from all I learned. There are things I can't unsee. In this your holy world, there's nothing holy here for me. More the tears of things, the tears of things, rising like a flood. The tears of things, the tears of things, I'd cry them if I could. If you put a man into a the naked song, the sacred song that every soldier feels. 'Cause when people go around talking to God, it always ends in tears. Yeah, the tears of things, the tears of things. Let the desert be unfrozen. The tears of things, the river sings. Who would choose to be chosen? River, sea, and mountain, desert, dust, and snow. Everybody is my people. Let my people go.
Okay, well, welcome back. That was a song chosen by Ian. He's probably U2's biggest fan. That was Tears of Things. Great song. So we were discussing actually things that were just allowed to go by the by with regards to this case. And as I've been going along through the months, I've sort of like, I need sort of like some kind of validation of my thoughts, basically. So I discovered that if you actually go onto Google, you can ask it questions about the Greenfeeds case. It's quite opinionated. It comes out initially with the first thing it comes out with is basically it gives you the whole sort of Greenfeeds case according to the BBC, which we all know is a load of rubbish. So then I take that statement and then I go back to it and say, well, okay, did you know this or did you know that? And just see what its take is in what I've said to it. And it sort of, as the conversation goes along, it learns basically. It must think I've got the right one on here. It learns as it goes along. So we were talking about the case, and I asked it about the judge's submission, because I think if I can take the judge's submission and all the facts that he raises as to why he convicted Gillian, and I can dispel them, then theoretically she shouldn't be where she is. I know she shouldn't be where she is, but just to prove it. So the first thing we talked about, or the robot talked about, was the fact that the judge said that they used the outcome of the 2005 prosecution, where a guy was killed on site in 2005, and they used that to weight the case for the prosecution in the 2016.
Can I just quickly interject very quickly, Phil? Carry on.
Yeah.
Please keep your train of thought. What happened in that trial to bring that 2005 case into that trial should never have happened. Never, ever, ever have happened.
I agree. And the
It's
trouble
not
is,
even about agreement. I don't even need your agreement. It should never have happened. But
you've got it whether you like it or not.
Okay, thank you. I didn't know you were gonna do this sort of talk now. But I just want to make it for the audience. This is so prejudicial. It's unbelievable that this was allowed to happen. It should never be allowed to happen in any jury trial. I'll give you an example. If you're a shoplifter and you stole 113 times beforehand, right? The fact that you're there for 114 times, being a prolific shoplifter, the fact that you did it 113 times before, it's got absolutely nothing to do with the case that you've been alleged about that in that instance. And enough said. Sorry, Phil.
So when I discovered that that even AI sort of was saying that the judge used this 2005 incident, basically they got it wrong, because both the police and the prosecution thought that the 2005 case was a case of somebody dying as a result of cleaning a tanker. And it absolutely wasn't. It had nothing to do with cleaning a tanker whatsoever. It was a guy that actually sat on a revolving PTO shaft, and he was drawn in by his clothing, and it ripped his arm off, and he died as a result of having his arm ripped off. So nothing to do with cleaning a tanker, but the inference was that Gillian was aware of this guy who died on site, theoretically, from cleaning out a tanker. And therefore, she should have known over all the years, 2005 to 2016, she should have known of the dangers of cleaning out a tanker and should have done something about it as being a senior manager.
Can I pause you there, right, on that point? Phil, I'm sorry to interrupt. Right? Ian, you're here, right?
Yes.
All right. Can you just remind the audience, the listeners, of what, I can't remember her name, said outside court?
Iqbal.
Well, Kirsty Iqbal.
Yeah, Iqbal, yeah. Can you remind the listeners?
She said
this is very relevant. This is very relevant.
Yeah. She said that Gavin Rawson and Nathan Walker should have gone home from work and shouldn't have died, basically. That's what she said out of court. And I totally agree with her.
No. She didn't say that. She said this.
This was inevitable that this was going to happen. Yeah, this was inevitable.
We're talking about 2005 and 2016.
Yep. She said it was inevitable that it was going to happen from people going into tankers to clean them.
Totally different instances, totally different events.
Yes.
Carry on, Phil. Sorry, I really apologise, Phil.
That's okay. So when this robot tells me that they use this information from 2005 in the 2016 case, I said, this is where I score a direct hit. The case in 2005 was nothing similar. It related to an operative sitting on a revolving PTO shaft, transferring feed from one tank to another. Nothing to do with cleaning a tanker at all. This should not have been used to weight the 2016 case at all. The robot then came back and said, this is a significant technical distinction. If the 2005 fatality involved a mechanical PTO shaft accident rather than a confined space tanker cleaning incident, it fundamentally changes the prior warning argument used by the prosecution. In legal terms, this is where the prosecutor's knowledge of risk, where the prosecution's knowledge of risk argument becomes vulnerable. So in other words, they shouldn't have used it, and it disproves the prosecution's use of that term, basically.
Carry on, there's more to come.
Yeah. It sort of like if it had been unrelated to confined space, it then went on to say, if I can get it up, irrelevant precedent, a mechanical injury, PTO, does not give a director foreseeable knowledge of the chemical or asphyxiation risks of a tanker. Absolutely not.
Yeah, well, it's a totally different scenario, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. The difference in law for gross negligence manslaughter, the prosecution must prove the defendant was aware of a specific risk of death for the specific activity being performed.
Yeah.
Interested, eh?
Going back to the previous point, we're talking about an incident which should never been mentioned in this criminal trial, which got mentioned. And let's just give it, it did happen. We're talking 11 years. And then Kirsty Iqbal, Ian, remind me what she said on the steps outside court. Again,
she said that it was inevitable this was going to happen.
Yeah, oxymoron.
We cannot repeat that enough. That was the narrative. I've done a separate episode about the narrative. Phil, carry on, please.
Yeah. So it then said, if the 2005 case didn't involve tankers or fumes, it shouldn't have been used to prove that Gillian Leivers was reckless about tanker cleaning. It then went on to say why this matters for the CCRC. This is precisely the kind of detail the Criminal Case Review Commission looks for. If the jury was led to believe that a similar death had happened before when it actually hadn't, that is potentially prejudicial information
Well,
that could
pause
have
there,
unfairly...
pause there, right? It's not potentially, you would believe it, because if you think about it logically, right, I'm a strong believer that when someone enters a courtroom, they're assumed guilty, and you have to produce, make your innocence known. So basically, you're presumed guilty. You need to build your innocence, right? If someone, mentions the word death, someone died, right? How prejudicial is that to yourself, right? As a jury member, Ian, I know, and also Phil, it's probably not really a reasonable question to ask, but if I was sitting in a jury box and I'd think someone died, they lost their life, and they're dead, and more people have died, how would you think, in that instance yourself? I was thinking these people are scumbags, just automatically, without knowing the facts. That's what I'd think. Phil, Ian, would you not think the same?
Yeah, I do. I agree.
You'd certainly think they were being reckless, wouldn't you?
Well, you don't know, Phil. No, that's reckless. That's your verbiage. But you'd think this is disgusting, outrageous, egregious, and all that sort of stuff, because this is some people's family members, and you would literally think, like, what the fuck?
Yeah, you'd think that they were guilty.
I would just think guilty straight away.
Yeah, you would. Yeah.
I know. Carry on.
This is what what the CCRC looks for. If the jury was led
on that point, I will say, in this instance, though, I wouldn't automatically think Gillian Leivers guilty. I don't know how the hell that happened. Go on, carry on.
That happened because they made it look like she was the senior manager at the time and had been throughout the year, and actually ran the business because Ian was out on the road. That's why.
She didn't run the business in 2005. This is utter bullshit.
I know.
Go on, carry on.
It says if the 2005 death was used to paint a picture of a death trap factory without being factually similar to the 2016 incident, it could be argued that the jury's decision was based on a flawed characterization of the owners rather than the actual evidence of the 2016 event. Given your insight into the 2005 incident, do you believe that the health and safety consultants hired after the first death were ever asked to specifically audit the tanker cleaning process?
Can I interrupt here? Now, there's two things here, and you've just said it there, Phil. So, firstly, Peninsula. Expert health and safety advisors. You cannot get no better. And so, after David Wilmot died...
On that point, Ian, just for the sake of the audience, they've got a 5-star rating.
Yeah. And I employed them immediately after that death of David Wilmot when he sat on the PTO shaft. Now, if this was tanker cleaning, surely Peninsula, with that 5-star rating, would say we need a risk assessment for entry to tankers. But it was not. And they were not called to court to testify as expert witnesses. Never mentioned. Secondly, the person who couldn't defend the company in 2005, and bear in mind, I wasn't prosecuted. Gillian most certainly wasn't prosecuted. I don't know what happened there. Anyway, Richard Crockford, the solicitor from Kennedy's Law, because David Wilmot sat on this PTO shaft and mysteriously the part of the guard was missing, couldn't defend the company. After the 2016 deaths, I had a different solicitor from Kennedy's Law, James Shrimpton. And in 2023, when they brought in Danny McShee, the senior partner, to try to keep a lid on this, I had an email sent to Danny McShee asking him, why wasn't Richard Crockford consulted? And I got a reply from him saying James Shrimpton spoke to Richard Crockford at the time, and due to the passage of time, he couldn't remember anything. I emailed Richard Crockford immediately, and he came back and said this, and I've got the email. He said, this did not happen. I would have remembered that. Nobody spoke to me.
Yeah.
Why didn't they speak to Richard Crockford to confirm that this was not cleaning a tanker out and David Wilmot died after sitting on a PTO shaft?
Yeah. The thing is, solicitors, right, and I know this for a fact, right, are taught to make notes all the time about everything. And the fact is that it's irrelevant in relation to this case. Someone obviously lost their life, right? And that's tragic beyond belief. I can't imagine. I've got 2 kids myself, and if my daughters lost their lives, I don't know how I'd feel. I'd saying that I lost a brother, and that still plays on my mind a lot. But the point being is that this is totally disconnect from the incident on this night. Totally disconnect on this night, and that's how.
Well, with AI having the temerity to actually mention to me about third-party health and safety, I thought I'd just give it a little bit of information. So I went back to it and I said, I think neither third-party health and safety company felt it necessary to raise a risk assessment for going in and cleaning tankers because there just was no need. However, I think Allied Plant were unprofessional. Sam Ramage claims she didn't even know Greenfeeds ran tankers, which was an outright lie.
What, you actually put that complete description in, did you?
Absolutely. I haven't finished. What? In the driver's handbook, there was a chart from FEMAS stating the tanks did not require cleaning. Plus, there was a blockage. If there was a blockage, the driver knew to 1, open the free flow valve, or 2, reverse the pump, or 3, remove the pump, or 4, change the contents of the pump, or 5, totally replace the pump.
Wow.
So it then came back and said, well, if your facts are correct, they describe a massive failure of the justice system, specifically that the jury was misled about the similarity of the 2005 death and the true extent of the company's safety protocols. If the 2005 death was a mechanical PTO shaft accident, using it as a warning for a 2016 confined space asphyxiation is legally comparing apples to oranges.
What, gross, they said that?
Actually said that, yeah, I'm reading it.
For oranges.
Yeah. For gross negligent manslaughter, the risk of death must be foreseeable for the specific activity being done.
Wow.
It says, based on your points, here is how the prosecution's narrative could be systematically dismantled. So he says, the false precedent of 2005, the judge and prosecution told the jury that the management ignored a clear warning sign from a previous fatality. The direct hit, if the 2005 death was purely mechanical and not related to cleaning or gas, it provided no warning about tanker fumes. It included in the 2016 case.
Fantastic point. Fantastic point.
Yeah. Potentially tricking the jury into believing there was a pattern of tanker deaths that didn't exist.
Again.
Brilliant. the professional negligence of consultants. You mentioned Allied Plant and Sam Ramage claimed they didn't know Greenfeeds ran tankers. The conflict, if Allied Plant and Peninsula were hired specifically to handle health and safety, any failure to identify a death trap process is arguably their professional failure, not the owner's criminal negligence.
Yeah, 100% agree with that.
Boo! I like that. I really do. The no need defense. If experts didn't raise a risk assessment for internal cleaning because it wasn't a standard requirement, because it wasn't a standard requirement, it supports the owner's claim that they never authorised anyone to go inside in the first place. You'll like that, Ian.
Yes, I love it.
The instruction versus the manual procedures. The driver and manager's statements that Gillian never gave the instruction to enter the tank are the ultimate reasonable doubt. Protocol versus action. If the FEMAS handbook specifically stated...
Can I just pause that 1 second, Phil? It's not even reasonable doubt. Everybody said that Gillian never said it.
I know.
It's not even reasonable doubt. She never said it.
Hey, guess who said that she said it right at the end?
Go on.
Who do you think?
Is that what's his name?
Stuart Brown?
No. What's that guy that lied beyond belief? What's his name?
You're not going to believe this when I tell you.
Robin Neve?
Yeah, that's the one I was thinking of. Yeah, that one.
Keep going. Try some more people. Think of the one person who should never have said.
Oh, Dave Maruniak.
No. Keep going. Do you give in?
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, go on.
And it was corrected by the company barrister. The judge.
God.
The judge said what?
The judge said that Gillian Leivers told Nathan Walker to get into that tank to clean it.
Really?
Yeah. Mark Bally stood to his feet and said, "My lord, Gillian Leivers never saw Nathan Walker that day." And the judge did that stuttery thing again and just carried on.
What, he said that in open court?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
I was saying that right at the end. That's when he gave Gillian 18 years reduced to 13.
On that point, though, right? The judge has a lot more weight than, say, being a juror is pretty boring sometimes. I imagine, I've never been a juror. But a judge is saying, how could he even say it? And Ian, are you sure?
I am 110%, Brad. I'm so sure if you ask me that again, we'll fall out. He said it.
He actually said that Gillian Leivers gave the instruction.
Yes. In sending Gillian to jail. Brad, you've told me in the past.
Is that at what point did he say that?
When he was sentencing Gillian. And I had to walk her down those steps, crying. She could hardly walk. And she said, "But I didn't even see Nathan that day." The company barrister corrected him. He had it in for Gillian from day one. He's a misogynist. Brad, you have told me that 0.2% people successfully sue a judge. Gillian and I have discussed this all weekend. I am suing that judge. He is going to jail.
Yeah. Well, it's 0.02, I think it was, Ian.
And I'm going to be the one. He's going down. He has to answer, firstly, why he said that he had to get through Richard Draycott, the first witness, first day, when the trial only lasted 3 weeks and it was set out for 8 weeks. Why would you want the professional driver gone, dismissed, cleared? Let me tell you, he also gave Mike Holgate, another owner of a lorry, 14 years the year before us. It's for the workers. That's why he defended the post office workers, and rightly so. It's for the workers through and through and through. is not for companies.
Okay.
So the robot then said the prosecution's case rested on the idea that management was hands-on and ignored warnings to save money. That's another point, because
Can I
you
just-
provided your solicitors with all the bloody receipts for all the sodding PPE that you bought.
Oh, Phil, let me just give you more than that, which we gave them. I sold one of my homes in Spain, put the proceeds into Greenfeeds. I remortgaged my home in Rainworth by £100,000. I put that into Greenfeeds. Lance remortgaged his cottage at Calverton by £100,000. He put that into Greenfeeds. Gillian and I cashed our pensions in, and we put that into Greenfeeds.
And you hired 2 independent health and safety specialists along the way.
Correct. I put my life and soul, everything into Greenfeeds because I believed in the company and it was going somewhere.
So he's saying that you were hands-on and ignored warnings to save money. Your facts suggest the opposite, that she was physically absent. The expert failed to flag the risk, and the manuals explicitly forbade the very action that caused the deaths. If the CCRC finds that the 2005 death was misrepresented and that the de-instruction testimony was falsified, it would undermine the entire gross element of the manslaughter conviction. So basically, it just takes away that manslaughter thing. The worst she could have got was the same as you, Ian.
Yeah.
Which, you know, she would have been in and out by now. But I don't even think she should have got that, to be truthful. I mean, you know.
Well, we know it's another crime, Phil, don't we? It's all made up. So that's coming too.
Yeah. So do you want to go back to Curtis then? No, I've finished on my high horse.
Let me just go back to the.
So what, Brad? I know you've been probably knocked off your seat. What do you think to the judge saying that in sentencing? Witnessed by the entire court of family.
I didn't want to interrupt Phil again, but it's the first time I heard that. By the way, Ian.
Yeah.
The
witnessed by everyone, Brad. Witnessed by everyone. The courthouse was full on sentencing day.
And bear in mind the knowledge we've got from even speaking to, and I know you know they're not in your fan club. What Richard Draycott said and Stephen Hunt said, that Gillian didn't say this, and the judge overtly said this as part of his sentencing.
True.
I think I mean, listen, right? I can say this wholeheartedly, right? This judge should be struck off, in my opinion, because it's not only that, is the fact that he's completely misrepresented the entire case. And I don't know why. I really don't. She should not be in jail. And if, for example, the system says, well, we need to convict somebody, she definitely shouldn't be there for, well, initially 17 years and then reduced to 13 years. The it doesn't stack up. It doesn't stack up.
But if what we said about that 2005 incident removes that gross element from the charge,
exactly,
the most he could have got was the same as Ian.
Yeah, but yeah, okay, fine. Let's just buy that one. Yeah, we'll go with the fact that maybe there is some negligence there in some respects. But the thing is, the way I look at it, you've got an entourage of staff there, right? She's the least qualified person in the fucking business. Other than she can talk because she's a fucking hairdresser, and what do hairdressers do? Talk.
Yeah. But she was the boss's wife.
And yet that's the problem. The conviction is she's the boss's wife. Why not focus on Ian or something?
Well, we have Steve Lane on the night of the deaths. Remember, Steve Lane, the pink Parrot driver, in the foyer. We've got the photograph of this, pointing the finger at Gillian when the police said who was in charge, and all the staff stood there silent because I wasn't there at the time. And he said, she is. And Gillian said, I'm not in charge. I'm the boss's wife.
Yeah, she's the most innocent person in the room, in my opinion.
Well, she actually said, "Who are you?"
Terry Maruniak allowed on site. How did that happen? Come screaming in the office, screaming to Gillian, saying, "You're not going to get away with it this time." After she'd stood in the back place, huddled together with Curtis, Draycott, Dave Maruniak, Mike Maruniak, Jack Maruniak.
On that point, this is where serious issues come into play. Ignore all the Maruniaks and all that sort of thing, and we're going to talk about them, but maybe today, maybe we won't have chance. But it's the fact how the police and the HSE got things so wrong. Your site should have been closed down.
Absolutely.
Without a doubt. There's no protocol to allow your site to operate. I've checked it out.
Brad, I have a guest coming on who worked at a company where someone was killed with a lorry, a sweeper actually, and it was cheated, taken away, gone over by forensics. He's got a lot to say about this case.
Yeah, well, yeah. But it's without a doubt in anybody's mind that there's nothing stacks up. And what I don't understand, right, when we think about it from key stage one and from that police officer, and you're so lucky to have that recording where he's walking up the drive and said this is an open and cut case, pretty much, and that's it, and that was the narrative. But what I don't understand is how Gillian Leivers was the narrative, how it ended up being her. That's what I don't get. I don't get it whatsoever. It's just a beggar's belief. Anyway, I'm talking.
I don't get that. I don't get how they lose body cam footage. I don't get how they wipe the CCTV footage. I don't get how they didn't caution Gillian and Lance before they interviewed them, or how they were allowed others to make 3 and 4 statements. I don't get any of that.
Okay. Let's just go backwards slightly. This the epiphany, as we talked about before, Phil. But
yeah,
it's the fact that everybody's allowed to congregate together to make whatever it is they need to make up on the incident. You know,
that same police officer, Sergeant Whittle, actually said, keep everybody apart and then just allow them to congregate together, to make up a story.
Yeah, he did.
He broke every rule in the book.
Yeah. Okay, let's go to a music break. Who's doing this one?
Do you want another U2, Ian?
Oh, I tell you what then, Phil, if you've not got us in the lineup, let's say, because we are going to succeed, let's go for Queen. We Are the Champions.
Yeah, I like that song. I've not heard that in a long time, actually.
I've paid my dues time after time. I've done my sentence, but committed no crime. And bad mistakes, I've made a few. I've had my shells and kicked in my face, but I've come through. And I need to go on. We are the champions, my friends, and we'll keep on fighting till the end. fame and fortune and everything that goes with it. I thank you all, but it's been no bed of roses, no pleasure cruise. I consider it a challenge before the whole human race, and I ain't gonna lose. We are the champions, my friends, and we'll keep on fighting till the end. We are the champions. We are the champions. No time for losers, 'cause we are the champions of the world, the champions, my friends. And we'll keep on fighting till the end. Oh, we are the champions. We are the champions. No time for losers, 'cause we are the champions.
Okay, well, welcome back. That was Queen, and We Are the Champions. So, if it's all right with you guys, I'd just like to keep prattling on, basically, about the conversation I had with this AI robot, as in validation of the bits and pieces that we've been digging up as we've been going along. So I asked it about one or two contradictions in the case, and it said that the current status of the case as of April 2026 was that Ian had been actively campaigning, publishing a book called My Wife Was Framed, which you can obtain from all good bookshops, which argues that witness statements were altered and critical CCTV evidence was ignored. The CCRC review is currently examining these new documents and information. It says, given that I've got the handbook, have I noticed if it contains a confined space entry permit section or specific warning sticker requirement that was also debated in court? And it says, if the FEMAS handbook did not require internal cleaning and the tank contents were simply liquid pig feed, the prosecution's entire death trap narrative rests on shaky foundation. In a gross negligence manslaughter case, the prosecution must prove that the risk of death was obvious and that the defender's breach was reprehensible. Your points provide powerful counter narrative that would be central to a CCRC review. So there was no industry requirement. If FEMAS, the industry standard for feed safety, explicitly stated that stainless steel liquid feed tanks did not require internal cleaning, then there was no foreseeable reason for management to provide breathing apparatus or confined space training for a task that was never supposed to happen. I think you'd concur with that, wouldn't you, Ian?
I do indeed, Phil. And to add to that, obviously we continued in FEMAS after the deaths, and auditors came to do the annual audits. And of course, there was no risk assessment for entry to tankers. I did, in a state of shock in 2017, send two guys on close confined space training, Jake Welch and Will Murray. But again, we never put a risk assessment in place because it wasn't necessary. It was just a knee-jerk reaction. I was in shock. I suffered PTSD from learning two guys were found inside one of my tankers. And this is also confirmed on the body cam footage. When I arrived in the boardroom that night, I asked Lance, what tank were they in, Lance? I thought they'd fall into a mixing tank. He said, a road tanker, Dad. And I said, what were they doing up there? That was my initial reaction, which has caused me post-traumatic stress disorder.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
If it'd fallen into the macerator, what would have happened then?
Well, I think it was that the blades probably weren't powerful enough to chop them up. But when I came out of the gym at around 4:30 that night, because I'd come back from business meeting in Bolton, went to the gym for an hour, and noticed I'd missed a call from Laura and rang her. And she said, Dad, Nathan and Gavin are dead. They've died in a tank. And, I remember breaking down, going down the A1 thinking, they've fallen. That's the only place, Phil, that I thought, why they would have died. They'd fallen into a mixing tank and be chopped up. I don't think these guys died. Well, we know they didn't with any toxic fumes in the tanker. It's for reasons still yet to be discovered, reasons unknown.
I don't think we're ever going to find out, to be truthful, Ian. I really don't.
Well, we are, Phil, because the route this is going to go, and I've been told this from the outset by the specialist solicitors, the police won't act until Gillian's conviction had been quashed, and then they have to carry out their duty. He said, I can do whatever I want. He told us this, when he went to first visit Gillian. I can, so long as I'm telling the truth, which I am throughout, he says Ian can do whatever he wants. The police will not act. It's not within their remit to admit fault. They simply cannot do it. We need change in police, and for this to happen, where police do learn to say, sorry, we made a mistake.
Yeah, hands up, basically, yeah.
But sorry is not good enough, though, really, is it?
Not really, no.
Yeah, the statement.
Because, you then have to look beyond Gillian, don't you? Go, well, how many more are there?
Sure.
Don't, Ian, ignore that question. Let's not go there. But the fact is, what people, again, I reiterate, is Gillian Leivers should not be in jail, and that's the whole point. And what's really interesting is where Phil's asking these questions, and granted it's computer and that sort of stuff, but in all fairness, nowadays, you go to a clerk's office, they're using AI all the time. And what Phil's done is used his intuition to just ask questions of a computer system, which should, in all fairness, shine a light on what we've said all along, that Gillian Leivers should not be in jail. The case is completely unsafe. And again, I just remind the listeners, I don't know who should be in jail, if anybody. But one thing I do know, Gillian Leivers should not be in jail. Anyway, carry on, Phil.
It's a time scale as well, isn't it? We talk about it, and but we're not suffering.
And the sentence as well. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. But anyway, it went on to say the protocol deviation versus the instruction. If the handbook outlined a 5-step unblocking procedure that avoided entry, well, it didn't, but the drivers knew about it, and the victims entered the tank anyway, the legal argument shifts from management negligence to an authorized departure from safety protocols by the employees.
That's really interesting.
So that's an interesting point, isn't it? Yeah.
Very interesting.
You can almost come to most of these things and go, well, contributing negligence. You shouldn't have done it in the first place. You must have been off your rocker, basically.
Let's repeat that last sentence which you just said, and let's just talk about Sue and Brown on that basis.
Right. So it says the legal argument shifts from management negligence to an unauthorized departure from safety protocols by the employees.
Right. So
that's not necessarily the dead employees. That's any employees.
Anyway, because everybody's got a fiduciary duty, a duty of care for one another as well.
Well, it actually says that in the company health and safety procedure, that everybody in the business has got a responsibility to everybody in the business.
Yeah.
Written down, I've seen it.
But when you look at this, though, right, where someone's being instructed to go into a tanker, and this is an event, it is a one-off event by all accounts. The and then you've got the derogatory sort of terms about this person as well, suggesting vulnerability and that sort of stuff. And then you've got another member of staff jumping in thereafter. And then you've got professional drivers there who seem to think it's kind of okay until okay was no longer okay.
Yeah. I mean, what if it was just a practical joke?
Well, I said this, Phil.
We discussed that at one stage, Phil, didn't we?
Yeah. I said this to the solicitors, because let's not forget, right up to the trial, as I said earlier, we didn't know that Dave Maruniak was down there at the scene. And we have given evidence over to the solicitors that Richard Draycott was a prankster, as we said. Only that morning, he'd put a card in Alex Fortune's car claiming it was from Gavin, which upset Gavin. Gillian did see Gavin that day because when she arrived at 3 o'clock, he came to see her, very upset because this joke had been played on him. And Richard Draycott had pointed his lorry into big puddles in the yard before at Pat Rutherford. Pat wasn't very happy about it. Andy Harwood, who I always say was like my brother, he did the same with him. He did worse with Andy Harwood. He spread malicious gossip that Andy was involved with some sexual thing, because Andy used to take care of students at college, vulnerable people. He used to run them around and in the minibus and take classes, actually, and he spread malicious gossip about Andy, which was terrible. Andy had a word with me about it because I heard about it and didn't tell Andy. I was trying to shield him. So that's the sort of person Richard Draycott was, and this is documented to Kennedy's law solicitors that we had suspicions that this could have been a practical joke.
Was it ever mooted in court?
No, nothing that we gave to the solicitors, Phil, was used in court, was it?
The thing is, we did discuss it, but the fact is it can't be a practical joke because Stuart Brown said it in the office in front of many other members of staff to send them in.
He didn't. Phil, Brad, sorry, we've not got this. If you read Stuart Brown's statements and what Stuart Brown said on the stand, he said he might have a job for him later. He might. He said that he even spoke to Nathan and said, I might have a job like we did before. But this did before never happened because it's the Green Goddess, so you can't get through the baffles. Nathan was stood at the front hatch. It's the very front of the tanker, the Green Goddess, and he was spraying water in like you do from the hatch, and it was coming out of the rear. It was claimed that there was a famous photograph of Stuart in the tanker. This has never surfaced.
No. And weren't they talking about the Swan Deck?
Yeah, which isn't a close confined space. Even if you climbed in there, it's only a couple of feet
to his waist,
the lid. Yeah, and your body's out.
Yeah.
So it can be argued. It could be a confined space if you got on your hands and knees in there, but you'd have no need. You can stand on the ladder. The ladder's right at the front, and you spray the liquid in like you would any of the others.
Even Robin Neve, he claimed that somebody was inside a tanker and Stuart Brown was watching on the outside. But he never saw anybody in the tanker. He never actually see anybody.
There's no evidence, Phil. It's all hearsay. They've all made up a story to cover over whatever happened that night. When you get to Gillian on the stand, the judge wasn't bothered about Gillian being grilled for 3 days. She said something's happened and they are not telling us. And that's when the prosecution barristers said, so you're saying there's a cover-up, are you, Mrs. Leivers? And she said, no, sir. That is not what I'm saying. They're your words. I am saying something happened.
We
and
don't
they
know
are-
what.
Yeah, we don't know what. They're not telling us.
Yeah. I checked tonight, there's 68 pages of Gillian's statement.
Yeah,
68 pages.
68.
Not as good as the film. Blimey, the book.
Yeah, so my personal thoughts are obviously we know we're not being told the truth, and because just quite literally, I mean, the jury wouldn't have the benefit. Oh, saying that they would have actually, I guess, of the contradictions, but we know there's massive contradictions of who was where, when, what, literally every if, what, where, when, how, and like the you know, and what I don't get though, right? I mean, I don't necessarily buy into your drugs thing and murder thing, Ian. Right? I don't necessarily get into it, but you know, that's what you believe.
Well, the Maruniacs were drug dealers, Brad. I did go to the police station when he tried to run me over just before the trial and gave them a list of names. And there will be many, many, many people who will support this.
But what I will say, what do you call it? The bloody hell, Brad, come on. The strap that was thrown in.
Yeah, I was going to say, Brad, what's the strap there for?
With hook on the end. What's that?
There's no hook on the end. There's no hook on the end. But Nigel Curtis never mentions the strap. And it's wrapped around and round around that pipe tube. Where is the strap? Why didn't the police ever give it me into an interview? They've not got the strap. The police haven't got this strap. It was taken away by the Maruniacs after.
Yeah, but the point being is, in my opinion, is why not? Did people not just tell the truth that night?
Because something's happened.
Yeah, exactly.
It had nothing to do with my company.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I wholeheartedly believe that something happened, but they're not telling the truth.
Well, why did Richard Draycott come back and claimed it set like concrete and then he's denied it, but all the office staff said, why did he create this problem?
Well, and then, he goes missing and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I've already detailed the different stages that were available to them without actually getting into a tanker. And you've got two fitters, there, two engineers that could have done something.
Not one, but two, Phil.
Phil, right? I know, granted, you're a police officer and that sort of stuff, or a former police officer, I should say. We've got over 60 elements of issues here. Over 60, it's probably almost knocking on the door of 70 now, of issues in regards to this case. And the thing that I can't get my head around is why lie and why not just tell the truth?
Yeah, agreed. And the other thing is, a lot of times these discrepancies are glaringly obvious lies.
100%.
Glaringly obvious. Stevie Wonder could see that they were lying. I really don't get it. I really don't get how they've been allowed to get away with this.
Yeah,
I really don't. When we know for a fact that Draycott and Brown say Gillian never spoke or issued an instruction to get into a tanker, why is the bloody judge saying that she did?
Well, the courthouse was full, Phil, on sentencing day. People couldn't get through the doors. So it was aired by the entire court.
It's balmy. And then you've got Iqbal standing on the flipping court steps saying, this was inevitable, bound to happen. What does she know? She didn't even investigate the damn thing. We're lucky if she actually went to site. And not only that, she removed, according to Jake Welsh, over 70 method statements and risk assessments that the company had. She removed them from site. And then she stood on the steps saying, scant health and safety. Well, I'm sorry, but I don't think even Sims Metals have got 70 method statements and risk assessments. When I was there,
Well,
that's a lot
well,
of risk assessment.
Well, Phil, let's just not forget that after the 2005 death of David Wilmot, I paid for a 5-year contract gold star with Peninsula. They wrote
Yeah.
all the risk assessments out. They did everything that was
Absolutely.
needed from our business.
But more importantly, and I hate to drum this home, is this has got nothing to do with Gillian Leivers.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. We said this earlier on.
You know, she was a glorified employee, and unfortunately, she married Ian Leivers.
Yeah,
that was it.
You're right, Phil. Brad, sorry, I feel terrible. I feel terrible about it. She, like that day, she'd not come that day because she had no need to even come into work. She didn't get there till 3 o'clock after visiting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 graves. Then they could never have pinned it on her, as the Marooniacs said, and then stand back and watch the fireworks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They would have pinned it on Stuart Brown, I think.
They wanted to, Phil. That's why when I was summoned to the Marooniacs' house over Christmas, over the holidays, they wanted me to get rid of Brown.
On that point, right, what I will say, right, I believe Stuart Brown is culpable.
I would agree with that.
However, I don't think he's culpable to the extent of a sentence that Gillian Leivers got, right?
I would agree with that.
Right? Gillian Leivers should not be in jail for anything, right? But Stuart Brown should be sentenced for something. To what extent, I don't know. I don't even know what the guidelines are, but he is definitely comparable, and also Richard Draycott.
Yeah.
Richard Draycott.
Yeah. These guys should be looking at themselves seriously, looking at themselves and going.
Yeah. Those two people. Yeah, those are the two people that I think are culpable, and also Robert Neve should be done for perjury.
Correct.
Yeah,
that's my belief. That's my
Dave
belief.
Maruniak down there at the scene lied. Why a senior person that's been there all them decades?
We're actually, funny enough, I've not discussed Maruniaks today, and that was one of the things on the agenda today, but we've gone this route.
That's it.
But we're going to talk about them, but we've not discussed them.
Well, I think, Brad, when we do get more deeper into Curtis, you were going to learn more there. Curtis committed perjury too. He was the one that said on the night that he'd never seen anyone a tanker before and thought they'd fallen in, and he was the first one to go back to the police nearly a year later and went full 360 degrees, and yeah, people were going in tanks and lied. Remember about this revolt, and it is a fact.
Oh, that's
I've
a
been
good
told
point
by
as well, that everybody denies the revolt happened as well.
Yeah, I've been told by several people that he was. I don't know if he still is. That he left his wife and moved in with a policewoman.
No, I don't know. I don't know if that has any relevance anyway. But...
I still say there's hardly any physical evidence whatsoever in this case. It's nearly all hearsay, and they've gone to the 40 Thieves to give Ali Baba a flipping, character reference. You can't do that, surely. The only people that have brought into this case to give evidence were all the ones that got a vested interest in keeping their asses out of the fire.
So true.
Stuart Brown, Dave Maruniak, Mike Maruniak.
That's the thing that frustrates me the most, right, Phil? In all honesty, is why do you need to lie? Right? That's the bit I don't get.
Well, I think for Stuart Brown's point of view, I can see why he needed to lie.
Yes, but even so, right, he would get, if anything, a short sentence. If anything, right, a short sentence. The and the same with Richard Draycott. They could argue the fact that they admit the fact that they made the wrong choices. That they may not even get a sentence, but how?
Well, they are, Brad. After this, trust me, this is the way it's going. They think they have got away with, excuse the pun, murder. It is not going to happen. when Gillian's conviction is quashed, and it will be quashed, that's when the police will carry out their duties. We're not going to leave this. The police won't leave this.
It's gonna.
They're going to come back to it.
In all fairness, Ian, if it's true, right, that they've completely lied and covered up and that sort of thing, their sentences will be far more significant to anything that they would have had in the first place.
Sure.
Yeah, I think I would advise any of them, if they've got a conscience, to spill the beans now while they've got a chance.
Yeah.
Without a doubt, because it's coming down on top. It really is going to come down on top.
Yeah,
I would be
I mean,
bricking it if I was them.
it's in plain sight, Phil. It's in
Yeah.
plain sight. What what we don't know, we don't know. It doesn't really matter, right?
True.
But what we
Very
do
true.
know is that everything that happened that night is basically they've lied.
Yeah. Yeah,
for,
without a
for
doubt.
whatever reason, and I hope we get justice. In for Gavin and Nathan as well, albeit that's not going to be beneficial to the family in that regard. But what I think is really, really important in this, in what we're talking about is about the injustice, is that Gillian should not be in jail, and the story, perhaps, if we're lucky, will come out and the truth be told. Because you think about it logically, right? Like I say, we plan to discuss about the Romaniacs today, but we've gone off on a tangent. We've got the CCTV, we've got even Phil and I, the interview with Richard Draycott and Steve Hunt, all that sort of stuff. And this is like low level stuff, right? Nothing matches up with what was said in the trial. Nothing, apart from a few factoids, if you want to call it that. Phil.
Yeah. It's like if you say to Maruniak, Dave Maruniak, where were you for an hour? Where did you disappear to? Where, bearing in mind there is no other vehicle on site, and you say you claim you were offloading another vehicle. What were you doing? I'd love to know his answer.
Well, it was down there, Phil, wasn't he, orchestrating this in the mixing shed? He was the senior person. He was in charge, and he's orchestrated this big lie.
Do you know what? If you read the transcripts, Dave Maruniak is made out to be like Benny from Crossroads. He's sort of inconsequential. He's not important. He's nothing really to do with it. It's very, very strange.
Who was the one that spent 2 hours in the police car? Which Maruniak was that?
Yes, that's right. That's Dave Maruniak. We've got the CCTV footage now. We didn't have that at the time. When we had it forensically retrieved, we went over that, and it was in the police car for that time. However, his first police statement, like we say, was spread out on about half a page with big lines between them.
Yeah. And then we've not even talked about the fact that Mike Maruniak discovered Nathan in the rear of the trailer, which we all know,
but which is impossible.
Anybody knows was absolutely, totally impossible.
Yeah, it's impossible. Yeah.
You couldn't see him from the hatch because there's no direct line of sight. We know that.
No.
That's why the fire brigade cut that hole at the top end of the tanker, because there was no direct line of sight from that hatch into the top end of the vehicle.
Correct.
De facto, there was no direct line of sight from that hatch into the rear of the vehicle. It's the same bloody distance.
Yeah, that's why they cut it, Phil, because one's come out the middle, one's come out the rear. They wanted to check that there wasn't a third person in the front.
Yeah, and the only way of doing that was to cut a bloody hole in it.
Correct, because they weren't going to go inside it.
No, absolutely not.
Nobody wanted to get dirty.
No. And the other thing, of course, is there's no way that Mike Maruniak, from the outside of the tanker, could discover anything inside the tanker other than feed.
No.
Because you couldn't reach that. You couldn't reach the hole.
No. Well, Yeah, you're right, Phil. And remember when Lance did his interview, he said that it put him on his knees when Mike Brunette came back and said, "There's another one in here." After he'd just been struggling trying to save Gavin inside the tanker and they'd just got Gavin out of the middle hole. He couldn't believe it when he came back and said that.
So was that ever raised in court? Was it ever
No,
discussed?
because they didn't want Lance to give evidence, did they? They refused Lance the right. I mean, how can they say that Lance? They never have defended themselves to say why Lance didn't want to give evidence. They summoned him to the hotel the night before he should have given evidence and refused him that right.
On
And
what grounds?
equally with me. Why would I be summoned on a Sunday night to my barrister's hotel room if I was not wanting to give evidence myself? And this is what they're going to claim. It doesn't make sense, does it? Why would I also have a friend come over from Mansfield to my home here in Newark and go to that hotel room with me, along with Gillian, if it was my choice not to give evidence? I was screaming from the rooftops, I have to give evidence. I have to tell the jury the truth. I have to tell them why they've all lied. And he point blank refused me and said, if I give evidence, Gillian goes to jail. And closed the hotel window because his colleague, the prosecution barrister, Lucy Wright, was in the next room.
Craziness.
Crazy.
I mean, what grounds could they say that Lance couldn't give evidence?
They've never given a defence to that. Is my barrister's defence, which I have in writing, claimed this, that I was an awkward customer and that I was maintaining that the men were murdered. He didn't believe me, did he?
You were an awkward customer.
Yeah, that's what he
makes
said.
Makes it sound like you just popped in the butcher's.
Client, actually. I was an awkward client. And I was saying that the men were murdered. They didn't want to believe that. They wanted to believe that it was a company offence. That's why Malcolm Galloway asked no questions of the witnesses.
Well, bearing in mind what we've said tonight, Ian, and the stuff that I've been spewing out about this AI interview, what are your thoughts now?
Well, we know where the CCRC are with it. They've got the conundrum of trying to piece together what the witnesses said. So that's going to give them an headache. They've got the fresh CCTV footage with the Manitou down there at the scene right at the outset, which confirms they've all lied. And this report will be completed.
On the point, just to remind listeners, the chronology that Richard Draycott gave doesn't match up with the CCTV whatsoever.
No, it doesn't. But he was never shown the footage with the Manitou arriving at the scene as he reversed in the mixing shed. They hid that from the trial. Lucy Wright mentioned it later when she was taking his evidence, but didn't use the CCTV footage to go through it with Richard because she couldn't, could she? Because as he reversed in the mixing shed, that's when it arrives. It's not there later. It would have ran over Mick Drury and Martin White taking the ladder away from the mixing shed. That's at that time when he claims it was driving down. It would have run them over. So she couldn't use it. She had a leg up from her colleagues from the Crown Chambers the entire way through, wanted to ensure that she won this case.
Well, I was having had this conversation with the AI. I've managed to change its bloody mind. I mean, absolutely changed completely. It's done a 180, and it's basically said that if what I've told it is true, and all I've told is the stuff that we've discovered, then the whole case is flawed, and that'll do for me. So now I'm looking for a result. Basically, I'm looking for something to prove that the ball's gone over the line. As far as I'm concerned, we're on the right track. We're doing the right thing, and hopefully the CCRC will pick it up now and get us a result. I've got to see that. I don't know what I'm going to do if they don't. But
well, they are, Phil. Even going back to last summer, they confirmed that they're not interested in the tanker. They have no interest in the tanker. They can see with the evidence they've got that it's all
Yeah,
wrong.
well, I would have thought they'd have had some interest with the fact that one body came out of the rear, and and nobody thought it had. So I mean, but anyway, by the by, we're going to have to close it there, guys. We've run out of time, so I'm going to pick the last song if that's all right with you guys, and we'll have to come back to Curtis another time. So I'd like to finish off with a song called "Big Log," and it's by Robert Plant.
Oh, very good.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Okay, let's play that now. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you're listening from. It's amazing to see the different countries that listening to Dreamcatcher Radio, and thank you very, very much. I want to talk about something. I wrote this on the plane. I was in Crete recently, only there for a couple of days, but they were a long couple of days to discuss some ideas. And I had a fantastic time. I must admit, my liver took a load of abuse. And I'm grateful to come back. But Crete was an amazing place, fantastic people, and very, very peaceful place. I know it's the start of their season over there, but managed to try some wonderful food and met some wonderful people. I want to talk about this, about the justice system. I wrote this on the plane on the way back. And some of this, I think, I've kind of talked about before, but this is slightly different. I assure you. Now, in the UK, we are told that the courts are where the truth is tested, where evidence is weighed, and where the powerful and the powerless stand equal before the law. We know we've got a two-tier justice system here in the UK. I've just added that, actually, because that wasn't in there. We definitely do know that. But that promise only holds if the system itself is accountable. And this is the bit I want to talk about. And today, we've got to confront the truth. There is a serious lack of accountability within our criminal courts, particularly when it comes to judges and the Crown Prosecution Service. And some would say defence, barristers, KCs, and the like. When mistakes happen in the justice system, the consequences are not small. They are not theatrical. They are not academic. They fall on real people, real families, real lives, and yet, when those mistakes occur, the standard response is, you can appeal. And I heard it time and time again. As if an appeal was going to be a magic eraser, as if the emotional, financial, and reputational damage simply disappears, because a higher court later says, yes, something went wrong should you succeed in your appeal. This is one of my grievances, which I'll go on to explain here. But here's a question we've got to ask ourselves, and it's a question the system rarely answers. And this is my point. And this is why I wrote this. If an appeal succeeds, what is actually learned from that? From the lower courts and also in the upper court. What changes? What improves? What consequences follow for those who made the error in the first place? Maybe the judge, the CPS, or even it could be a jury got it wrong. But the jury are fed a narrative. And if you are inclined, go listen back to an episode I talked about the narrative. And I believe too often the answer is nothing. Nothing happens. There is no consequences. There's nothing learned, nothing gained. The crazy situation we live in society is someone could be charged with the same offence, say in Middlesbrough, and the same offence in London. The chances are, for the same charge, same circumstances, if you could actually arrange that to be done, one of them will not get a conviction, one would. And there's multiple reasons there. I'm not going to say it here, but just open your mind a little bit. But the system remains untouched. The judges who misapplied the law continues as before. The prosecutors who withheld evidence or failed in their duties, no meaningful review is ever done. The courts just allow unfairness to creep into the trial, simply moves on to the next case. And trust me, that's exactly what happens. And so, for obvious reasons, the cycle just repeats. We cannot pretend that appeals alone are the form of accountability. Appeals create outcome, sometimes, but they do not correct behaviour. They do not address patterns. They do not prevent the same errors from happening again to somebody else. Accountability to me means learning. It means reflection. It means consequences. It means transparency. And right now, our system has too little of all four. Judges hold enormous power. Their decisions shape lives, futures, and freedoms. Yet the mechanism for following judicial conduct are slow, opaque even, and rarely used. The public is told to trust the process, but trust cannot survive without visibility. When a judge's decision is overturned on appeal, the public deserves to know. Was the error acknowledged? Was guidance issued? And was training updated? And this is the clanger, was anything done at all? The same is true as the Crown's prosecution service. Prosecutors are not simply advocates. They are the ministers of justice. Their duty is not to win, but to ensure fairness. When disclosure failures occur, when evidence is not shared, when material that could assist the defence is overlooked or withheld, the consequences can be devastating. Yet, how often do we see meaningful accountability for these failures? How often do we see systemic, I should say, change rather than individual blame quietly brushed aside? If appeals are the only safety net, then the net is full of holes. Appeals come too late. They come after the damage is done. They come after trust has been broken. And they come at a cost. A cost borne not by the system, but the people the system is supposed to protect. So let's ask ourselves, what must change? We need a culture where errors are not hidden but explained, where overturned convictions trigger automatic reviews, and what went wrong and why, where judges and prosecutors are not shielded from scrutiny, but supported in improving their practice, where transparency is not feared but embraced, and where the justice system remembers that accountability is not an attack, it's a safeguard. Because accountability is not about blame, it's about learning, it's about preventing injustice, not merely correcting it after the fact. It's about ensuring that every person walks into a courtroom, may it be a victim, a witness, defendant, or juror, can trust that the practice is fair, honest, and worthy of power it holds. I'm a strong believer that defendants walking to court and they have to prove their innocence. It's not the other way around. They have to prove their innocence. They're not assumed innocent. I do believe that presumption doesn't exist pretty much in any court. It's just words, in my opinion. Okay, I'm going to leave it there. Have a great morning, evening, day, week, year. Catch you soon.